Goku first taught Naruto how to draw out his ki, and when he was able to do that, he proceeded to help him in learning how to summon it in its raw form, by having him focus in summoning it into his palms. This exercise took around 3 weeks to perform before he was able to create a ball of ki, which left Naruto surprised and awestruck at how beautiful it looked. Once he managed to do that, Goku first taught him the basic attack for this technique called the Kai Blast, and with that, Naruto spent his time learning how to manipulate and shape the blast into different forms and managed to form it into either a thin beam of energy that can easily pierce through solid rock or steel to one that can leave a crater in the ground, as well as form it into a thin disc that can cut down countless trees in a single line. The only issue was the amount of energy he put in them, so he spent his time in working how to not waste so much and control it effectively. After that, Goku decided to teach him a few Kai-based techniques that were really powerful if used correctly, the ones that he learned or seen his friends use. He started off by teaching him his family's traditional technique, the Kamehameha wave, turtle destruction wave, which happened to be the first technique he learned from Master Roshi when he started his training. Goku instructed Naruto in how the energy attack was basically a straightforward attack that could do serious damage, ranging from destroying a small mountain and causing tidal waves to wiping out a large city and destroying an entire planet or even a solar system. So with that, Naruto learned the Kamehameha and even created different variations of it, like ones he could use as a barrage attack or manipulate it like a heat-seeking missile. Surprisingly, Naruto managed to get the technique down in nearly half a year before Goku taught him the other key techniques, but only after he was able to use them properly and master them to an extent, and even then, Naruto still continued to own his skills even after mastering whichever technique Goku taught him. Shenron, on the other hand, taught Naruto an ancient style of fighting called elemental bending, which was the bending of the 5 elements that were based off of a certain fighting style. Basically, it's bending form the Avatar cartoon that is combined with a certain element like water bending, for example. Water bending is based on a style of Tai Chi Chuan, specifically the Yang style. It is a Chinese martial art that features slow movements and elegant forms that evoke the feel of flowing water. Waterbending's strength is its great versatility. Rather than supporting a separate set of offensive methods, waterbending employs defensive techniques that can be transformed into attacks and counters, defense into offense. Instead of simply deflecting an attack, waterbending's defensive maneuvers focus on control, achieved through turning an opponent's own strength against him, rather than directly harming the opponent. The other was earthbending. Earthbending is generally based on the Hung Gar style of Kung Fu, which features heavily rooted stances and strong kicks and punches that evoke the mass and power of earth. The martial art is based on the movements of animals, including the tiger, which is utilized when initiating hard blows, and the crane, which is used to land gently back on the earth. Another version, which is more versatile, is one based off the southern praying mantis Kung Fu, using its precise stepping to maintain contact with the ground, as well as sensing the different vibration through the ground and reading a person's emotion without using your eyesight.
Another one was firebending. Firebending moves are based mainly on the style of Northern Shaolin Kung Fu, but with a few techniques from Northern 7-star praying mantis. These martial arts feature quick, successive attacks that exert extreme power for just a moment, much like an explosion, called Jing Lick. It optimizes a strong continuous offense, sacrificing defense for greater power, the principle behind a preemptive strike, making firebending the most aggressive of the 5. Airbending is based on the Bagua style of martial arts, also known as circle walking, or 8 trigram palm, along with a small hint of Xingyi, also known as mind-heart boxing. These martial arts feature swift, evasive maneuvers that evoke the intangibility and explosive power of wind, drawing energy from the center of the abdomen.
Bagua, which utilizes circle walking. The idea behind it being the act of walking the 8 trigrams, is known for its constant circular movement, which makes it difficult for opponents to attack directly or land a blow. Since it's always maneuvering, nobody can get a solid hold on of this maneuver. Maneuvers employ the entire body with smooth coiling and uncoiling movements, utilizing dynamic footwork, open hand techniques, punches, and throws. A common tactic is to maneuver behind an opponent and mirror their movements, preventing them from turning to face the practitioner.
Unlike other bending disciplines, airbending is almost entirely a defensive art.
The final one was lightning bending, which unlike the other elements relied on using the internal strength such as the bioelectricity that emits around a person's body but is invisible to the naked eye. Lightning bending was basically one of the most dangerous forms of binding since it was based off of the shotgun fighting style, delivering fast and precise blows that relied on the person having fast reflexes.
Basically, each of these 5 basic disciplines each represent the balance of life, meaning neither one was too strong or too weak. With this, Naruto was intermediate at best, learning the 5 elemental fighting styles. Goku also taught him a very unique technique known as flight bukujutsu, in which the user manipulates their ki energy so that they can levitate or fly into the air. Naruto was literally excited in learning how to fly, as he always wondered what it would be like to soar across the air like birds do and see everything below him. Goku had to agree since he too loved to fly. When Naruto first started off, he could only levitate a few feet into the air and slowly learned how to maneuver around objects and increase his speed and slow down.
The first few tries proved to be disastrous at first due to the fact that Naruto ended up crashing into several trees, face first, and then one time the side of a cliff, leaving an imprint of his body which made Goku and Shenron bust out laughing at the incidents. But he did start to improve as he got older. Right now Naruto overall had an excellent build for someone his age. Think Teen Gohan from the Cell games. Swaying behind his back was his tail, and Goku also warned him about how a Saiyan's tail was their weak point, as whenever it is grabbed, it weakens the Saiyan greatly, but he helped Naruto overcome that weakness.
Naruto also worked on using a bow staff and a katana, as he bought them both from a weapons store near the border of Fire Country, and worked on the katas, the style he learned from Hiruzen and Kushina before the incident. Said Saiyan was observing the damage he did around the area and couldn't help but rub the back of his head sheepishly. "Hey, looks like I overdid it a little," Naruto stated as he saw a rock texture collapse over and hit the ground. Haha, don't fret Naruto, you've improved a lot over the last 7 years in controlling your power. Good thing this mountain isn't populated, Goku stated as he was extremely proud in how far Naruto has gotten in his training and felt a sense of pride. "Indeed, I didn't expect you to get this strong so soon, young one, but it looks like you've surpassed my expectations," the Eternal Dragon remarked with a sense of pride in his voice. "Thanks Shenron-sensei," Naruto said as he wiped a bead of sweat from his face. "Though I wonder how Kushina-chan and Mito-chan as well as the other are doing. I really miss them."
"I'm pretty sure they are doing just fine, Naruto, after all. They're each strong in their own way," Goku assured his apprentice. Naruto merely sighs and nods as he makes his way over to the small hut to gather his things.
"I guess you're right, Sensei, since Tsuruoji has things handled." He pulls out a map of the elemental countries and inspects it. "I'll need to restock my supplies at the closest village, and I think I'll make a detour to Kiri next. What do you think, Goku-sensei?" Naruto asked as he got his stuff packed up. "Sounds like a plan, Naruto. Let's get some supplies first at the closest village on the island, and I think you should head to one of the closest elemental countries next," he instructed while his apprentice studied the map.
"That would be Kirigakure no Sato." "Alright then, next stop Kiri. Say Sensei, can I fly there this time instead of having to swim like I did when I went to Nami no Kuni?" he asked and heard his mentor chuckle. "Sure. Naruto, knock yourself out, but don't do it literally, as I still haven't gotten over that time you crashed head first into that mountain," Goku said, chuckling. while Naruto hung his head in embarrassment, before flaring his ki and taking off into the air. After getting the supplies, he was currently soaring over the ocean, passing several islands. Man, that's weird, I should be close to Kiri right now. He pondered until he noticed a ship sailing across the water. Maybe they would know if I was close or not? With that, he took off towards the ship. Man, this is so boring. A female Kiri nin groaned while two of her comrades had tick marks on their heads. For the love of Kami, stop whining, damn it. A Jonin yelled, getting tired of the Chunin's constant whining, even though water patrol was the most boring objective, while the other Jonin chuckles. Relax. Man, it's not like we're run into anything out here, he remarked until he saw a black dot heading in their direction. Hey, what is that? He asked as he squinted his eye, and his teammates did the same until the dot got a little bigger.
It looks like a kid and he's flying towards us. The female nin's eyes bugged out while her comrades appear right beside her with the same expression. No way, the Jonin said until Naruto appeared before them, hovering in the air like it was as simple as breathing. Hey, are you guys from Kurigakure no Sato? Naruto asked the group, who said nothing but gaped at him.
How are you hovering in the air like that? The other male Kiri nin asked. Naruto blinked a few times at their reaction and shrugs. It's a technique my sensei taught me, but anyway, are you guys formed Kiri? Naruto asked again. Yeah, we are, but why are you going there? Don't you know there's a civil war going on there? The male nin asked the young Saiyan.
Really? Wow, I didn't know that, but I'm merely going into the wilderness as I am a traveler. The black-haired Saiyan answered while the ninja looked at him in a skeptic manner but relented. Fine then, it's 10 miles southwest from here, but like I said, be careful as travelers aren't really welcome there. The leader informed Naruto, who nodded back at the ninja.
Okay, thanks for the info. Later. He did a two-finger salute with his hand before flaring up his ki, and took off instantly, making the water from under him splash upwards, and even creating a gust of wind, leaving the three Kiri ninjas stumped. That was awesome, the female nin said with stars in her eyes, while her two comrades merely nodded in agreement. Meanwhile, Naruto managed to make it to Water Country, and was searching for a good spot where he could train in peace, as well as make a temporary home, while being close to a village where he could restock his supplies. Should he run out, and after searching for a while he found a great spot that was near a mountain range, and below it was a jungle with a decent clearing and a large river, along with a waterfall flowing into the river.
Afterwards, he spent the whole week making a decent-sized cabin for himself before setting up the rooms with the furniture he sealed up, as well as his tools, clothes, training weights, etc. Right now the young Saiyan walking through a trail he created in the jungle, carrying the dead body of a wild boar he caught that was hog-tied to a large stick over his shoulder, and also was carrying a large sack that contained wild fruits and vegetables as well as medical herbs that grew in the forest. Man, catching this boar with weighted clothes was a lot tougher than I thought, but at least I'm getting a decent workout, he said as he made it to his cabin and drops the boar onto the ground and wipes a bead of sweat from his forehead. Phew, this humidity is no joke. I didn't think it would be this hot in Kiri, he thought while pulling out a jagged-looking dagger with the edges appearing to be smoothed out but extremely sharp, and proceeded to skin the boar and then cut open the stomach and remove whatever entrails he didn't need and threw them somewhere in the jungle away from his cabin and where scavengers would get them. Afterwards, he hung the skinned body over a pole that is out of the reach of any bears, wolves, and mountain lions while removing the tusks just in case he needed extra tools. For the rest of the day, the cheerful Saiyan was in the jungle, performing acrobatic feats across the trees and in ways most kids his age couldn't even think of doing, but then again he is not like other kids considering who his ancestor is. As he landed onto another tree, he stopped in his tracks and took a whiff in the air. His eyes narrowed as the scent grew stronger. That smell, there's blood in the air and it seems to be fresh, and also, sniff, sniff. He took off into the direction of where the smell is coming from. He lands in the area and his eyes widened at the sight. The area seemed to be charred, and on the ground were the bodies of masked ninja who were either in the ground in a puddle of their own blood, with missing limbs, or to his surprise and shock melted.
Oh man, there must have been an intense fight here earlier. He pondered, and looked around the area only to see a blood trail that went into the jungle. Someone's injured, and from the scent she's female. I'd better get to her before she's picked off by the predators in this forest, or worse, bandits.
With that, he took off into the forest. As he leapt through the trees, the scent was getting stronger, and as he landed on the last tree, out of pure reflex he flips off of it as it was hit by a glob of what appeared to be lava and melted the entire tree. Whoa, that was close, he stated, and heard someone huffing. He turned his head to see, and his sights was whom he could picture was without a doubt the most beautiful woman he's ever set eyes on. From her appearance she seemed to be around 18 years old. She has ankle-length auburn hair styled into a herringbone pattern at the back, a top knot tied with a dark blue band, and with 4 bangs at the front. 2 bangs are short, with one covering her right eye, and 2 are long, crossing each other on her chest, just below her chin. Her eyes are light green.
She dresses in a long-sleeved dark blue dress that falls just below the knees. It seems to be closed at the front with a zipper, and is kept open on the front right side from the waist down. The dress only covers up to the upper part of her arms and the underside of her breasts. Underneath, she wears a mesh shirt that covers more of her upper body than her dress, but stops short of covering her shoulders, and still leaves a sizable cleavage. She also wears shorts in the same color as her, and underneath, those mesh leggings reaching down over her knees. Around her waist, she wears a belt with a pouch attached to the back on the left.
Furthermore, she wears high-heeled sandals and shin guards reaching up over her knees. All in all, she looked like a goddess in Naruto's eyes, and he couldn't help but blush a little at her flawless form despite the fact that she had a few tears and dirt on her face. A sided smile formed on the auburn-haired woman's face as she saw the boy stare. "You see something you like?" she teased, but then hissed in pain, clutching her bleeding side, and was about to collapse over until she was caught in the arms of the black-haired Saiyan.
Whoa, take easy lady, otherwise you're gonna bleed out more than usual. Naruto warned as he carefully helped her up, while looking at the gash on the left side. You need to get that treated before it gets infected. I have a cabin not far from here. I can treat it for you. He offered, but then frowned as he sensed a group of unknown ninja heading here. The next thing May knew, she was scooped up in his arms bridal style, and said, "Woman eeks," in surprise. "Sorry about this, but we've got to go." With that, they both vanished in a blur, leaving the hunter nin on a cold trail.
A day later,
Mai Terumi, the leader of the rebel faction in person, Naruto helped, was looking outside for her savior from yesterday. By the river, a large splash occurred, surprising Mai as a fish that was the size of a small bear and hit the ground, flapping and flailing around. After that, Naruto leapt out of the river, shirtless and wearing his pants, like Gohan did after the Cell games.
As he landed on the soft ground, he shook his head in order to get the water out of his hair, and then did the same for his body until his tail wagged off the remaining bit of water on his person. "Man, these fish are tough to catch," he said to himself, unaware that Mai was sporting a small blush on her face as she saw his toned body. Never in her life has she seen any kid his age this ripped, as he had the build of a warrior due to the fact that he hardly had any form of baby fat on his person. That was when she noticed his tail and had to resist the urge of screaming kawaii at the sight. That was when Naruto turned his attention to Mai and his expression brightened. "Hey Mai-chan, I see you decided to get some fresh air while I was fishing. I guess those herbs did the trick and helped you recover faster," said 18-year-old, snapped out of her stupor and couldn't help but smile at his expression. "Indeed they did, Naruto-kun, and thanks for helping me even though you didn't have to," she replied back, and nearly gawked as she saw him hoist the giant fish that was twice his size over his shoulder. "I know, but I couldn't live with myself if I let someone as pretty as you get killed by those hunter nin," he replied back in an honest tone, unaware that his words made the tint of pink on her face grow a little until When it came to the opposite sex, Naruto was not as dense around females like his sensei was due to the fact that when he was in Konoha, he basically spent a lot of time around them. Basically, he was innocent when it came to women and would simply compliment them on their beauty as if it was the simplest thing in the world, unaware that it would result in them blushing due to how innocent he looked when he told them. Most males would do it to get into their pants, but Naruto was a different case. Another thing Naruto didn't like were perverts. His Aniki Kakashi was an exception in a way due to the fact that he mostly kept his in check thanks to Rin and the fact that he reads what his mother called smut. Thank you Naruto-kun, she replied in a quiet tone as she brushed one of her bangs back. Kami, what's wrong with me? He's a preteen for crying out loud, yet here I am acting shy around him. And those innocent eyes aren't helping the fact either.
You're welcome. Well, I'm gonna go get this fish skinned and cleaned for lunch. How do you feel about sushi? He asked Mei, who smiled. That would be great, Naruto-kun, she replied back.
Great, I'll get onto it and afterwards I can take you back to your camp. With that he headed to the back of the cabin in order to gut, clean, and cook the fish for lunch.
6 months later. It's been 6 months since Naruto met Mei and resumed his training in the deep wilderness of Naisu no Kuni. Ever since then, many rumors have spread throughout the country, and the shinobi village of an entity within the forests. Many don't know what it was, but how they know is that many in the shinobi village could hear the sounds of trees falling or explosions of something out of the ordinary.
Sadly, no one was able to find this person or thing since no one knew what it exactly was, but even then during the Bloodline War, the mysterious deaths of Kiri shinobi that believed in Yagura, the current Mizukage's ideals about the bloodlines being demonic in nature were always found at the Mizukage Tower's doorsteps either in a broken and bloody heap, barely alive or simply dead, depending on the person's condition. The only sign this mysterious entity showed was the slight indentation of feet at the doorstep of the tower, and the only person rumored to have met this being was the rebels' very own female leader, Mei Terumi, who was said to have been saved by this unknown warrior when she was ambushed by the current Mizukage's elite hunter Nin.
Though there was one thing that all the shinobi, whether they were of the rebel forces or the ones that followed the Mizukage, remembered, and it was the sight they saw only 3 months ago during the second assault between the two on the rebels' fortress of Tezuki. It was when the forest was being ravaged by the jutsu and explosive traps being used that something horrific happened. Flashback. Fortress of Tezuki.
Mei Terumi had just snapped the neck of an Anbu Nin that had attempted to attack her blind spot, while her forces were assaulting the fortress. The sound of battle cries, blades clashing, seal tags exploding, and just you being unleashed echoed around the bloody war-torn fortress, and bodies of both rebels and loyalists littered the ground. Smoke also rose around the area as the battle ensured under the full moon. We have to keep pushing. This fortress is one of Yagura's main strongholds, and if we can claim it, then we'll be one step at getting closer to the village, but at this rate, she pondered as she watched her comrades, the very people that were either bloodline holders, or simply those who were against the war, fought with everything they had. It's gonna take a miracle for this to succeed. I wish Naruto-kun was here.
As soon as those words left her train of thought, a deafening roar echoed across area, making all of those that were fighting stop in their tracks and look around. Mai's eyes widened in fear, thinking that it Yagura, who was in his Biju form to come assist his army in defending the fortress, and was going to call on her forces to retreat until she looked up and saw a large hulking figure leap over and land in the middle of the battle, causing the earth to shake violently and for dust to rise into the air. When it cleared, everyone's eyes widened in shock, horror, and fear, as they set their eyes on what appeared to be a beast, whose height rivaled if not surpassed even that of the nine-tailed beasts. It appeared to be a giant monkey-like creature with dark brown fur, covering its entire body minus its face, hands and feet with large pointed ears, and its long and powerful tail swished around back and forth. It sported a set of wicked-looking canines in its maw, but what mainly freaked them all out was its glowing red eyes. They were basically, in simple terms, primal. more primal than any other animals, and from the way it was growling at the Kiri ninja. It was not happy, and a growl rumbled from the giant ape's throat. Mei stood on a tower speechless beyond words as she stared at the beast. Her look of fear changed to surprise as she recognized the tail and the image of a grinning Naruto popped up in her mind. "Naruto," she said quietly, before said blonde stood straight up and let out a deafening roar that was so powerful that it shook the ground more than he did when he landed into the area and started to beat his chest.
What the hell is that thing? One of Yagura's ninja cried out. Who cares, just kill the monster. With that, the ninja on Yagura's side proceeded to throw countless kunai with explosive tags on them at Naruto and exploded on contact, covering his form in smoke. Some smirked triumphantly, thinking that they killed the beast, but when the smoke cleared, Naruto was unharmed and snarling in annoyance, shocking the ninja to the core as those explosive tags had enough power to level a large building but didn't even singe its fur. Naruto brought his hand up into the air and brought it down hard, crushing the enemy ninja like flies. He roared in triumph before stomping repeatedly on the ground. As this happened, the rebels decided to be smart and get the hell out of the giant ape's way as he attacked the enemy nin with his hands, feet, and tail, as they tried to use both explosives and jutsu that did little to slow him down. Mei watched the one-sided fight go on, pondering on how Naruto became this giant ape. One of her Kozao appeared next to her, as did Chojuro. "My Kami," was all the man said as he witnessed this slaughter while Chojuro tried his best not to lose his lunch at the massacre. They then watched as the Saiyan turned ape reared his head back, opening his maw wide and gathering what appeared to be energy into its mouth. Once he gathered enough, with mighty roar, brought his head forwards and fires an energy blast so potent, that it dissolves anything in its path to nothing, while the other ninja watched frozen in horror as the attack descended towards them. When it made contact, an explosion lit up half of the country in a flash of light, causing the place to erupt and generate a shockwave that ripped trees from the ground as well as the earth itself. Mei shielded her eyes from the shining light and the debris, as did Chojuro and Ao. When it cleared, they each saw a crater that was extremely wide and deep, and there was barely nothing left of the fortress or the shinobi guarding it. There's nothing left, and that energy. It wasn't chakra or yukai, it was too potent. A stumped Ao stated as he has seen a Amari, menacing ball, and what damage it could do, but this made it look like child's play. "We better get out of here as well before it spots us," Chojuro suggested as he backed away only for his heel to tap a rock that fell off the tower they were on and hit the ground. Chojuro's eyes bugged out in fear as he saw it make a clicking sound, as did Ao. "You baka, what have you done?" Ao tried not to scream out. Naruto froze in his tracks and his ears twitched from the sound before turning its head to their direction. Ao and Chojuro paled to the point where they looked like ghosts as the ape growled lowly as his head descended toward the three ninja. Mei did nothing but stare at the form until she stared at Naruto's glowing red eyes. "We're gonna die, I'm sorry Ao-sama," Chojuro whimpered out as they both sweat bullets. That was when Naruto stopped growling and lightly sniffed Mei's form and went from their primal state to a look of curiosity. Mei blinked also as she saw this and slowly reached out, moving her hand to his giant muzzle, making Ao and Chojuro freak out in a comically fashion. That was until she placed her hands on his muzzle, resulting in the ape to growl out softly as she gently rubbed his nose. Naruto sits down, making the earth rumble lightly while wagging his tail in a happy manner, and from there shock was purring. Both Ao and Chojuro felt like they were gonna faint as this behemoth that not too long ago ravaged the fortress, destroying it and the enemy like they were nothing, was now being calmed by their leader of all people, and wondered what was her connection to this beast. Can this beast really be Naruto? Mei wondered as she felt its muzzle vibrate. She then notices that he was trying to growl out something. Mei-chan, was all it said, causing Mei's eyes to widen, and the same went with Ao and Chojuro. It spoke to Mei-sama. Chojuro cried out, pointing his finger at Naruto in a comical fashion only to get a brain duster to the back of his skull by Ao. "Baka, don't scream, you'll startle it," the man yelled back. Naruto, was all Mei said quietly while said ape got back up and walked away from her, disappearing into the forest.
Flashback ends.
After hearing about the destruction of the fortress, Yagura immediately sent the remaining Kiri no Shinobugatana Shichin and Shu, the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, in search of the beast so he could kill it for killing his shinobi and one of his main strongholds, only on that same day, to come back with them extremely injured and on the brink of death itself. One Kisame Hoshigaki, Kurigakure's very own Kurigakur no Kaijin, monster of the hidden mist, quickly fled after the swordsmen reported their failure. Rumors said, the fish man was extremely terrified after the encounter with the ape, and was said by one of the surviving swordsmen that Kisame got the worst of it. He was close to being killed by the thing if it wasn't for his Samahata saving him at the last second. Ever since then and on our way back, Kisame was always looking over his shoulder for another attack. But what basically got Kisame scared was the great ape's eyes. They were primal and filled with a rage that would make the Hachibi's rampage look like a carnival ride, and the blue-skinned man downright refused to go after that ape, not caring if his leader would execute him or not, as he never wanted to see that beast or its eyes ever again for as long as he lived. So safe to say, Yagura kept a wary eye for the so-called ape, but still concentrated on the war. Mei though had an entirely different reaction after the events, as she just placed the report down, stood up, and went into the forest issuing orders to her second-in-command that she would be gone for a bit, and didn't want anyone to follow her.
No one was able to tell what Mei was thinking that day, and her eyes didn't portray anything when she went into the forest, but it was highly thought she went to meet the ape herself, only to come back with a big smile on her face, and a dazed look in her eyes. Ever since then, despite the best efforts of the rebels asking what happened, all she said was that the ape wouldn't harm them at all and wouldn't be seen again for a while.
Still, it made people wary if it ever shown up again, but also they were suspicious of how Mei was the only one to know the ape, but also the strange entity in the forest. That was another thing, people were beginning to think the entity and the monstrous ape were the same thing. So, when they found no sighting of it before and after Mei went to find it, they felt extremely relieved.
But now, after 6 months of fighting, the rebels were losing their side in the war, and with Yagura pressing on all sides, made it hard for them to counterattack. It made it only worse, when said Jinchuriki was joining the battle in order to end the war quickly, and it was happening with him having perfect control over his Biju, the Sambi no Kyodagame, 3-tailed giant turtle, made the war tip in his favor.
Kurigakure rebels' main camp. In the main camp of the Kurigakure's rebel forces, we could see in the main hut was a round table with the inner map of the whole village of Kurigakure within. Around this table was commanders and generals that made up to command the forces. Reaching the end of the table was Mei Terumi, rebel faction's leader, Yoden no Danshingakuin, lava dancing princess, and rumored to be the only link to the strange entity in the forest, and the Biju-sized ape as well. We can't keep hold on our positions with the enemy pushing forward, is only making it worse.
I agree, and with Yagura on the front lines himself is making it impossible to push back, and only watch our men get slaughtered out there. True, and with our resources going down immensely and the enemy all converging on us in one giant army is going to make things even worse.
Seeing their leader's thoughtful look, the general spoke. Mei-sama, do you have any idea to handle this situation?